video is gonna be about tube feeding. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna verify the physician order with MAR, and I'm gonna identify my patient by their last name and date of birth. Jan Doe 1998. Since this is my correct patient, I'm gonna ask him if he has any kind of allergies. The patient states he has no allergy. Now I'm gonna do hand hygiene. I'm gonna put on some clean gloves. Now I'm gonna prepare a formula. I'm gonna shake the formula, and the patient has an order for bolus feeding. If patient has to be fed by a pump, then I need to connect the feeding tube to this angio tube, and I need to prime the tubing. So now I'm gonna place the patient in a high flower position. The patient is in high flower position. Now I'm gonna check the patency of the angio tube by checking the residual. I'm gonna aspirate a little bit of the residual, and I'm gonna check the pH. The pH looks good. Since the residual is less than 250 ml, I'm gonna return it. If the residual was more than 250 ml 1 hour apart, then, or if it was more than 500 ml, I have to return the residual and I need to stop the feeding. Now I'm gonna flush the angio tube with 30 ml of water. Now I'm gonna feed the patient bolus as ordered. I'm gonna pour the feeding, and I'm gonna let the gravity run the feeding down inside the tube. Now I'm again gonna flush the angio tube with 30 ml of water, and I'm gonna close this. So if the patient has an order to be fed by continuous feeding, then I need to flush the angio tube with 30 ml of water every 4 hours, or before and after intermittent feeding. And if the feeding was continuous feeding, then I had to change the administrative set and the feeding tube every 24 hours. I need to inspect if the patient had any abdominal incision, then I need to assess and clean it daily. And the patient has an angio tube, I need to check the residual every 4 hours for the patient. Now I'm gonna remove my gloves and do hand hygiene. Now I'm gonna document the feeding that I gave to the patient, the appearance and the characteristics of the residual. If the patient has any kind of nausea, the intake and output for the patient, and if the patient had any abdominal incision, I'm gonna document the appearance of the incision. So the last thing in the video I'm gonna talk about is why the patient needs tube feeding. If a patient has a severe burn, or if the patient indigested any kind of heavy toxins, then we might want to use angio tube. And angio tube can also be used for abdomen. If a patient has an abdominal distension, it can be used for decompression. If a patient has malnutrition, then and the patient cannot eat through his mouth, then we can provide tube feeding. Thank you.